now that I've been contacted by people saying, Eric, Sam Harris and I were both contacted saying that there's a disclosure planned and there's big updates and we need you to communicate this news to the world.
There's disclosure about a specific technology.
About something. I mean, more or less the way this works, it doesn't matter who you talk to. Something is huge. I can't talk to you about it because you don't have clearance. But we're going to fly out to Colorado Springs. And we're going to show you some stuff, and you're never going to be the same. Right? Like, okay, I'm on standby. My process, Joe, is that I'm very open-minded, but I have a very strong filter before I'll say, yeah, that's true, that's real.
Okay.
That freaks people out. It's like, why are you even talking to these people? Well, because I know the history, and you don't. So I was open to this. Sam was open to this. And it's Lucy in the football every goddamn week. When am I headed out to Colorado? Oh, you're going to be met by a car, and you're going to be blindfolded, and you won't know where you are. Like, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This week? Next week? The week after? No. Something's come up on the hill. Things are getting crazy. We're going to be talking to some very big people. I can't talk to you right yet. So that's been my weird life now, a part of it for like 3 years. I don't know how long.
For 3 years they've been telling you that they're going to release this.
Well, yeah, and it's always pushed out, right? So like it's a mañana program. Okay? It's always mañana. And I'm not falling for it, but I'm telling you now that I have information. I can't tell you everything I know. I wish I could, but I'm a team player, and if somebody says something in confidence, I'm not going to reveal it on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Okay.
But there's some things I can say that nobody else can say, which is I had a very weird reaction to this. I think Sam was initially interested, and then they mañana'd him 3 times, and he said, I'm out. Doesn't talk about it. I went a different route. I said, okay, you guys keep saying all this stuff is real. You keep saying you've got high quality data that you can't show anybody because it's all stovepipe. You hear this word over and over. Stovepipe, meaning that each little group is isolated. Like Bob Lazar says,
yeah.
I was only allowed to see this little thing. So I say, okay, am I right that you're telling me that these things are real? Yeah. And then they say, and that nobody could do this that we know of? I said, that's right, because they seem to defy the laws of physics. You hear this phrase over and again, defy the laws of physics. I said, great. I need to talk to somebody who speaks physics. How do you know they defy physical law? Well, we can see that they do. It's like, okay, if they defy physical law, then there should be a physicist to tell me that they defy physical law, who's seen the data. Maybe he can't release it to me, or she, but tell me somebody who speaks tensor analysis. So tell me somebody who knows what the Dirac equation is, like a pretty low bar for a physicist. There is no one. And I don't quite mean no one, but do you know who Eric W. Davis is?
No.
You ever heard of the Wilson Memo?
No.
Okay, there's something called the Wilson Memo where there's a physicist who meets a general or an admiral, and the general or the admiral is trying to figure out, I think this is at EG&G, why is there some program that I'm not allowed to know about? I have the highest clearances. I have a need to know. Like, sorry, we can't tell you. He's talking to somebody named Eric W. Davis. Eric W. Davis, so far as I can find, is the only person other than maybe Hal Puthoff who I've been able to talk to who speaks anything of these languages. This is not a particularly famous physicist. Hal Puthoff is an electrical engineer, I think PhD in electrical engineering. Eric W. Davis says to me, I said, is there nobody out here who speaks physics? This doesn't make any sense. And he says, well, you, Hal, and I are the 3 most technical people on this. Joe, I'm not even on this.
So you know as much about it as anyone, and you're not even involved. And there's only 2 other people that know the science behind this?
And like one of them is into remote viewing and was a Scientologist. So I'm just, imagine that you take your wife to the symphony, okay? You're going to see Beethoven's 7th. And you look at the string section. The brass section's in place and the percussion is there. And you look at the string section and it's a bunch of certified public accountants. You're like, where are the violins? Where are the violas? Like, oh no. Actually, that we have reporters for the AP. They're stringers. Like, that's not the same thing. We have string theorists. That's not the same thing. I'm looking for this is simple. I've been on this for 3 years, and I can't find anybody who speaks this language, which now that is a huge clue. Imagine that you say that we've lost control of our airspace. We're being menaced. Threats to civilian aviation, military aviation, they're seeing these things every day. They defy the physical laws, and there are no physicists anywhere to be found. That smells like BS. Or it smells like a pathological level of bureaucratic incompetence. And Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand, if you're out there, can you please find out why there are no technically competent people on an area of national security? And please don't mumble the word stovepipe or need to know or sources and methods. I mean, we had a Manhattan Project. We staffed it with physicists. You have a physics problem. If these things are here, Joe, they are here from so far out of town, or they are co-mingling with us on Earth. I can't tell you which. There are some reports that these things come screaming in from behind our satellites that are trained at Earth along non-ballistic trajectories. I have no idea how to say this. I'm talking all the time to Avi Loeb with the Galileo Project, trying to help him out. He needs funding, and he needs some ability to, just if the government won't play ball, he's going to put out his own sensors in places like Catalina Island, blanket the world, and he'll be able to say, we're seeing these things or we're not seeing these things. But right now, we have a puzzle that our government won't release information to its own scientific community. And it reminds me of, you probably know Airplane, the movie.
Yeah.
Well, there's this point.
Well,
there's this point where they're trying to land this airplane with these people who aren't pilots. He says, turn on the landing strip lights. And it was Lloyd Bridges or somebody. He says, no, that's just what they'll be expecting. Like he's trying to sabotage the people who are trying to land the plane. It doesn't make any sense. We're sabotaging our own scientists.